The judge's pen scratched the final line, and 8 months of waiting snapped shut like a trap. I didn't feel free yet, just clear enough to leave before the ink dried. The courtroom smelled like old carpet and cheap polish. Everybody sat like they were waiting for something dramatic to happen, like the end of a marriage should come with fireworks or tears. Mine came with a pen, a stamp, and a clerk who didn't look up. The judge signed. No speech, no morals, just a clean finality that landed in my chest like a weight being set down instead of lifted. Lauren was there. I didn't look at her long enough to learn anything new. 8 months of fighting had already taught me what I needed to know. She could sit 10 feet away and still feel like a stranger I used to pay bills with. Her lawyer whispered something. She nodded like this was a meeting that ran overtime. My attorney slid the papers toward me. "You're all set," he said, like I'd renewed my registration. I picked up my copy and felt the warmth in it, like the printer was still breathing. The ink was still wet. That's what hit me. How fast the official world moves compared to the way a man's life can rot in slow motion. Outside, the air was sharp and bright. I stood on the courthouse steps and didn't feel a thing I could name. Relief wasn't it. Grief wasn't it. It was simpler. I was done waiting. I drove home, boxed what mattered, and listed the rest online like it had belonged to someone else. Tools I'd worked for, furniture we'd picked out together, a grill I'd cleaned more than I used. I kept the things that held their value or their purpose and let everything sentimental die on strangers' pickup trucks. At the plant, I didn't give a speech. I walked into my supervisor's office, handed him my notice, and watched his face try to place the moment in the wrong category. "You sure?" he asked. "I'm sure," I said. That night I called a Navy buddy I hadn't seen in years, the kind of friend who doesn't ask you to explain yourself twice. He'd moved into private sector logistics overseas, knew a guy who knew a guy. I didn't pitch it like a dream. I pitched it like what it was: work, distance, and a clean break. 2 days later, I bought a one-way ticket across the Atlantic. No return date, no safety net. On the morning I left, my house echoed. I walked room to room one last time, not to remember, just to confirm there was nothing left worth saving. Then I locked the door, put the key in the realtor's drop box, and didn't look back. I didn't want closure. I wanted distance. And for the first time in a long time, I chose something that was mine. People act like cheating is a private crime, like it happens in dim rooms behind closed doors, and the only victims are the two people married on paper. That wasn't my version. Mine happened in daylight, in driveways, in grocery store aisles, at backyard cookouts where everyone smiled too hard and handed me a beer like it was a condolence. Lauren Price was my wife, technically. In practice, she started living like a woman taking auditions. Derek Hale showed up first as a friend. That was the label they all used because it made the math easier. He was a local contractor, clean truck, loud laugh, the kind of guy who touched your shoulder when he talked to you like you were already his buddy. He did a small job for a neighbor, then another, then he was suddenly everywhere, always with a reason. Lauren would run errands and be gone an extra hour. She'd take calls in the laundry room with the dryer running. She'd start caring about outfits again, not for me, just in general, like she needed to look good for the world. At first, I did what men do when they don't want to admit something ugly. I rationalized. Marriage is a grind. Work is stressful. People change. Don't be paranoid. But there's a point where logic becomes cowardice, and I hit it the day I came home early and saw Derek's truck parked 2 houses down, angled like he didn't want to be seen from the street. I walked inside. Lauren was in the kitchen, too calm, like she'd had time to reset her face. "Derek stopped by?" I asked. She didn't flinch. That was the tell. Innocent people flinch because they're surprised. Guilty people stay smooth because they've rehearsed. "He was talking to Mrs. Landry about the fence," she said, eyes already moving away. I nodded like it made sense. Like fences were more interesting than my wife's tone. Then the little things stacked up. Derek at our friends' gatherings, always finding his way into Lauren's orbit. Derek offered to help her carry something while I stood right there. Lauren laughing at him like he was the only funny man alive. And the worst part was how normal everyone acted. Like I was supposed to accept the new arrangement without being formally notified. Neighbors stopped inviting me to certain things. Not obviously, just subtly. A grill out I must have missed. A birthday party I probably forgot. People didn't want conflict in their yard, so they quietly edited me out. Even her family played dumb. Her mom would hug me and ask about work while her eyes did that careful scanning thing, like she was checking for bruises she'd caused. Her brother stopped answering my texts. Her cousin Kayla, the only one with any edge, would look at me like she wanted to say something, then bite it back. I remember one night at a block get-together. Derek was there, of course, leaning on a cooler like he belonged. Lauren drifted to him without thinking, the way your body goes to what it wants. I watched them from across the yard while a guy from 2 houses over talked about football with me. He kept talking, but his eyes kept cutting over my shoulder. He wasn't watching the game on the TV. He was watching my marriage die in public. Everything good? I asked him. He smiled too fast. Yeah, man. All good. That's what people said while they watched it happen. All good. It wasn't only the affair that made me cold. It was the fact that I was the last person invited to the truth. Everyone else had front row seats, and they sat there quietly like it was background noise. Then, when it finally cracked open, when it stopped being a rumor and became undeniable, those same people suddenly grew a conscience. You okay? They asked. We were worried, they said. We didn't know what to do, her mom told me. Eyes wet like she deserved sympathy. But they did know what to do. They chose it. They chose silence. They chose comfort. They chose not to risk awkwardness. And that taught me something I carried into that courtroom 8 months later. Betrayal isn't just the person who does it. It's the crowd that watches, then pretends they weren't there when the lights come on. Barcelona hit me like warm air and movement. Not chaos, just a different rhythm. People walked like they had time. Conversations spilled out of cafes like smoke. Nobody looked at me like they knew my story. That alone felt like medicine. I took a taxi from the airport and watched the city slide past. Scooters, old stone, palm trees, laundry hanging off balconies like flags. I didn't romanticize it. I'd come for work and distance, not a postcard. But my shoulders dropped anyway. My apartment was small and honest. 1 bedroom, clean tile, narrow balcony. Close enough to the Gothic quarter that I could hear street noise when the windows were open. Music, footsteps, laughter that wasn't aimed at me. The first night I slept with my phone face down and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Silence. Back home my phone had been a weapon. A constant alert system. Proof delivery device. Messages from lawyers. Friends checking in. People sent me updates I didn't ask for because they wanted to feel involved. Here it was just a tool again. The job was export logistics, paperwork, shipments, deadlines, the kind of work that rewards a steady mind. My buddy's connection had lined it up with a firm that moved goods out through the port. On my first day, I showed up early, sat straight, and listened more than I spoke. The office had its own hum, keyboards, printers, phones in Spanish I barely understood. My manager, Alvaro, shook my hand like it mattered and didn't ask personal questions. He pointed at systems, procedures, schedules. I liked that. He didn't treat me like a broken man who needed softness. He treated me like a hire. After work, I walked. A lot. I got lost on purpose, turning down streets that narrowed into alleys, following the sound of people instead of GPS. My Spanish was bad, embarrassingly bad, but it didn't come with baggage. Every mistake was just a mistake, not a symbol of my failure as a husband. At a corner bakery, I ordered coffee wrong. The woman behind the counter corrected me without shame or pity. I tried again. She nodded once like, good, learn. That was the pattern here. Correct, move on. I built routines because routines don't care about your past. Morning coffee, office, gym, grocery store, home. Same route until it stopped feeling like survival and started feeling like life. And slowly, the world quit asking me to react. No one brought up Lauren. No one tested my mood. No one watched my face to see if I'd flinch at a name. I could sit on a bench near the cathedral and just exist without performing pain for anyone. That's when I understood something simple. This wasn't an escape fantasy. There was no dramatic reinvention. No sudden happiness like a movie. It was a rebuild. A clean floor. A steady paycheck. A city that didn't know me well enough to judge me. And for the first time in years, my life started feeling like it belonged to me again. 6 weeks in, I was finally sleeping through the night. Not perfectly, but enough that the mornings didn't feel like punishment. Work was steady. My Spanish was improving in small, humiliating increments. I was learning the names of streets, the timing of crosswalks, the difference between being alone and being lonely. Then my phone lit up like a flare. At first it was Evan. 2 missed calls. Then a text. Don't freak out. Just call me when you can. That wording always means one thing. Someone back home decided my piece was optional. Messages started coming in from numbers I hadn't saved. Screenshots. Links. A couple of people I hadn't spoken to since the separation suddenly remembered I existed. I opened one image without thinking. Lauren in a white dress. Not courthouse white. Not we kept it simple white. Full ceremony. Big venue. Lights. Flowers. The kind of staged happiness you pay photographers to trap in glossy ink. Derek beside her. Tux. Grin like he'd just closed a deal. There were close-ups of rings. A kiss shot. Family lining up like the whole thing had been normal for years. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was this blunt, heavy confirmation. They never waited for the ending. They waited for the paperwork. I scrolled once more and caught the date on an invitation card. The timing was surgical, like they'd been counting down days, not mourning anything they broke. My thumb hovered over the screen like it wanted to smash something. I didn't. That was the point of leaving, to stop living inside their choices. I set the phone down on my kitchen counter and stared at it like it was a snake. The old me would have called someone, would have demanded details, would have tried to understand how deep the knife went, as if the depth mattered once you were already bleeding. Instead, I picked it up, selected the entire thread, and deleted it. 30 seconds. That's all I gave it. I didn't block anyone yet. Blocking is still a reaction. I didn't want to build my day around them in any direction. Not rage, not revenge, not healing, just absence. I went to the sink and washed a coffee cup that was already clean, hands moving because my mind needed something physical to do. Then I put on shoes and went outside. The city was doing what it always did. Tourists arguing over maps. A guy balancing trays on one hand like gravity was a suggestion. A kid laughing too loud. A couple walking arm in arm without performing it for anyone. I kept walking until the noise in my head thinned out. Back home, a wedding like that would have been a public event. A statement. A victory lap. A way to tell everyone, see? This is real. This is official. This is worth what we burned down. Here, it was just pixels on a screen, a broadcast from a life I'd already resigned from. That night, Evan called again. I watched the phone ring. I let it, because the point of leaving wasn't to keep watching Lauren from a safer distance. It was to stop giving her decisions free real estate in my head. And deleting those photos didn't fix anything. But it did something better. Proved I could choose what I carried. Evan finally caught me the next evening, my time. I'd just gotten back from the office and dropped my keys in the bowl by the door like a ritual. The apartment was dim, the kind of quiet that used to scare me until I learned it was earned. My phone buzzed again. Evan Brooks. I answered on the second ring. Yeah. Thank you, he said, like he'd been holding his breath all day. I wasn't trying to drag you back into it. You already did, I said. Not angry, just factual. He exhaled. Fair. Look, if you don't want to hear it, tell me now. I walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, stared at nothing. Talk. Evan and I grew up in the same town. He's the type who keeps his head down, pays his bills, and calls things weird when they're actually rotten. If he sounded rattled, it meant something had happened that even the town's usual silence couldn't swallow. It was big, he started. The wedding. I know you saw the pictures, but the pictures don't show the vibe. Vibe? I repeated dry. Yeah. Shut up. I heard the nervous half-laugh. They went into full production. Venue out by the lake. Lights, DJ, open bar. Everyone dressed like they were auditioning for a better life. I didn't say anything. Let him fill the space. And it was packed, he continued. Not just her people. Everybody. Neighbors. Folks from the plant. People who hadn't spoken to you in months suddenly acting like this was the event of the year. That tracks, I said. It gets worse. Evan's voice lowered. They were treating it like a reset button. Like the last few years didn't happen. Like you were a bad draft they erased. I leaned against the counter, eyes on the tile. The thing about distance is it doesn't remove the sting. It just stops it from spreading. Evan kept going. At first it was normal. Speeches, clinking glasses, the whole deal. Lauren looked, I don't know, proud. Like she'd made it through something hard and deserved a medal. And Derek? That's the thing, Evan said. Derek looked comfortable. Too comfortable. Like he was the one hosting. I pictured him. Hand on a drink, grin ready, shaking hands like he was running for office. Men like that treat weddings the way they treat any room. As a place to win. Evan paused. Then Kayla stood up. That name caught my attention the way a change in engine noise does. Kayla Moreno, Lauren's cousin. Sharp eyes. Doesn't laugh unless she means it. I'd met her enough times to know she wasn't the make-it-nice type. Evan said, she wasn't supposed to speak. I don't think. It didn't feel planned. She just got up. What did she say? I asked. It started sweet, Evan said quickly, like he needed to be accurate. She congratulated them. Thanks everyone for coming. The usual. Then she lifted her glass and said something like, here's to loyalty and honesty. May you both finally get what you deserve. I didn't move, but I felt it. The phrasing. The edge hidden inside a pretty sentence. Evan rushed ahead. At first people clapped because they're trained to clap. Then it hit the room like a delay. Like you could see it traveling across faces. What did Lauren do? She went pale, Evan said. And he didn't say it like a metaphor. Not just surprised. Like the blood left her. She stared at Kayla like Kayla had slapped her. And Derek? That's what made it weird, Evan said. He looked blindsided. Not offended, confused. He turned and looked at Lauren like he was asking her a question without words. I pictured it. Derek's smile slipping a fraction. The crowd still clapping while something ugly sharpened under the surface. Evan said, Kayla didn't smile. She held her glass up, stared right at them and sat down. No extra. No explanation. Just dropped it. What happened after? I asked. The DJ tried to save it, Evan said. Music came on too fast. Somebody yelled cheers like volume could cover meaning. But the air changed. I swear it felt colder. People started whispering? I asked. Immediately, he said. Tables leaning in. Phones coming out. That little town thing where everyone suddenly remembers they have opinions. I let out a short breath through my nose. So they found their voices. Yeah, Evan said. And Lauren, man. Lauren looked like she wanted to disappear. She kept forcing smiles. But it wasn't working. Derek was different. He wasn't playing host anymore. He kept looking around like he was trying to identify a threat. A threat, I repeated. That's what it felt like, Evan said. Like he thought someone was about to ruin his night. Like Kayla had a knife under the table. I opened a bottle of water, took a slow sip. Did anyone confront Kayla? Not that I saw, Evan said. Lauren's mom tried to laugh it off. Derek's friends were acting confused. But Kayla's not the type you casually approach. She sat there calm as a judge. There was a beat of silence. The kind where you can feel a man deciding whether to say the rest. Evan finally said, people started saying things. Like, maybe Derek's got a past. Or maybe he's got a present. I didn't answer right away. Not because I cared about Derek's fate, but because it was familiar. The same crowd that watched my marriage bleed out in public was now circling for new entertainment. Evan said, and look, I know you're trying to move on. I respect that. But when that toast hit, it was like the room knew something. Like Kayla wasn't just being dramatic. You think she knows something real, I said. I do, Evan answered, because she wasn't drunk. She wasn't laughing. She didn't do it for attention. It felt surgical. I stared out my small window at the street below. People passing, scooters buzzing, a couple arguing softly in Spanish. My world was still moving forward, no matter what happened in a banquet hall across an ocean. Evan's voice softened. I'm telling you because, I don't know. Part of me wanted you to know the universe isn't letting them have a clean victory lap. I set the water down. Evan. Yeah. Don't confuse consequences with justice, I said. I'm not sitting here waiting for them to suffer. I know, he said quickly. I know you're not. But, I added, because I'm not blind. If Derek's the kind of guy Kayla would aim at in public, it won't stay quiet. Evan let out another breath, relieved I'd said it. That's what I'm thinking. Anything else? I asked. He hesitated. One more thing. After the toast, Derek disappeared for a while. Like 20 minutes. Lauren went looking for him. When they came back, they weren't together. Not physically, not emotionally. They were just two people trying to finish a party. I nodded once, alone in my kitchen. A wedding can be a beginning, or it can be a cover story. Evan said, so yeah, that's the update. I'm sorry. It's fine, I said. And I meant it in the only way that mattered. It couldn't reach me the way it used to. We hung up and I stood there for a moment, letting the information sit where it belonged, outside my body. Then I went and washed that same clean coffee cup again. Not because I needed it clean, because I needed proof that my hands still worked, my life still moved, and some banquet hall back home didn't get to decide what kind of night I had. It was the same night Evan called. Different time zone, same poison. I just shut the lights off when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. One vibration, then another. Then the screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in weeks. Lauren. For a second my body reacted before my mind did, muscle memory, like a bruise flinching. Then it passed. I let it ring out. A text followed. Lauren. Can you talk? Please. I stared at the words like they were a bad joke. She had new vows and new photos and a new last name on her social media. But when the room turned cold, she reached for the same old hook. My phone buzzed again. Missed call. Another text. Lauren. I don't have anyone right now. That line used to work on me. Back when anyone included me by default, like I was furniture in her life. Back when I'd mistake obligation for love and call it loyalty. She called again. I rolled onto my back and watched the ceiling. Barcelona was asleep. The street outside was quiet. I could feel how far away I was, how expensive that distance had been to earn. I didn't want to know the details. I didn't want to be dragged into whatever mess she'd built with Derek. But curiosity is a thin crack, and at 2:07 a.m. it opened. I answered. Yeah, I said. Her breath hit the line first. Fast, uneven, like she'd been crying and didn't want to admit it. Oh my God. I didn't soften my voice. Why are you calling me? Silence. Then, I need someone who knows me. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insane. You didn't need that 6 months ago, I said. You didn't need that in court. You didn't need that at the altar. She swallowed. Don't do that. Don't do what? I asked. Tell the truth. Her voice tightened. Everything is falling apart. People are saying things. That toast, Kayla. So it's real, I said. Not a question. A conclusion. I don't know what's real, she snapped, then immediately softened like she caught herself. I can't breathe. I stared at the dark. This was the moment she wanted. Me steady, her frantic, and the old roles sliding back into place like nothing happened. I didn't give it to her. Lauren? I said, calm and flat, why now? She hesitated. Because you're the only one who. No, I cut in. You're calling because you want relief, not reconciliation. Relief. A small sound escaped her, half sob, half anger. I made a mistake. You made choices, I said. A mistake is bumping your head. You built a whole new life on purpose. She went quiet again, and in the quiet I could hear what she wasn't saying. Derek wasn't the prize anymore. The room had shifted. The town was whispering. And suddenly I was useful. I asked the second question. Why me? Because you're stable, she said, like it was a compliment. Stable isn't a service, I told her. It's something I fought for after you lit everything on fire. Her breathing got sharper. So you're just going to be cruel? I'm not being cruel, I said. I'm being gone. She whispered my name like she could pull me closer with it. I looked at the phone in my hand and felt nothing but clarity. Third question, I said. Why do you think you deserve my calm? She didn't answer. That was the answer. I'm hanging up, I told her. Call your cousin. Call your mother. Call a therapist. But you don't get to use me like a life raft after you threw me overboard. Please, she started. I ended the call. Then I blocked the number, set the phone face down, and lay there in the dark until my heartbeat slowed back into its new normal. Steady, earned, and no longer hers to disturb. Weeks passed. Work stayed busy. The city stayed honest. My Spanish got less embarrassing. The nights got quieter. Then a message came through on a platform I barely used anymore. One of the old channels people keep open because they forget it exists. Kayla Moreno. No greeting fluff. No hope you're well. Just direct. Kayla, I'm not reaching out for Lauren. I'm reaching out because you deserve to know what actually happened. I stared at it for a moment, then replied with the same energy. Me talk. She sent a voice note. Her tone was steady, controlled, no drama, no crying, no shaky righteousness. Just a woman who'd decided the truth mattered more than family comfort. Derek Hale has been seeing another woman, she said. Her name is Brianna Shaw. It wasn't a one-time thing. It's been going on for a long time, even before the wedding. I sat down on the edge of my couch, phone to my ear. Kayla continued. I didn't hint at it in the toast. I put it in the room on purpose, because everyone was acting like this was some fairy tale ending. Like Lauren hadn't burned you down to get there. I let her talk. No interruption. Just listening. I had proof, she said. Messages. Photos. Timing. Places. I showed Lauren months ago. Not once, multiple times. She didn't want it. She told me I was being jealous, being bitter, trying to ruin her happiness. Kayla paused, and in that pause I could hear the disgust. So you warned her, I said. Yeah, Kayla replied. And she ignored it because admitting Derek was trash meant admitting what she did to you was for nothing. It was easier to believe the lie. The words landed clean and cold. Not satisfying. Just accurate. Kayla went on. After the toast, Derek confronted me. Not angry, panicked. He kept asking what I knew. That told me everything. If he was innocent, he would have laughed. He would have dismissed it. He didn't. I pictured Derek at that reception, that quick shift Evan described, the host turning into a man scanning for exits. Kayla said, Lauren's been calling people non-stop, crying, acting like she got blindsided. But she didn't. She stepped into it with her eyes open and then closed them on purpose. I leaned back and looked at the ceiling. I wasn't happy about it. I wasn't even surprised. It just fit. Why tell me? I asked. Because you were treated like the villain, she said. Like you drove her into his arms. Like you were the problem that made her find herself. That's the story they sold. I'm not letting that be the only version that survives. A beat. And, she added, because your exit, leaving town, leaving the country, people called it dramatic. It wasn't. It was smart. You got out before the next explosion. I let that sit. Smart. Timed. Clean. Anything else I should know? I asked. Kayla didn't hesitate. Yeah. Lauren's still trying to pull you into it. Not because she loves you. Because you're the only man she knows who won't lie to her face. I almost smiled. Almost. Thanks, I said, for telling me straight. Just don't go back, she answered. That town will try to pull you into their mess because they're bored and guilty. Not happening, I said. Kayla ended it with one last line. Quiet but sharp. Karma isn't magic. It's a timeline. You just got off the track early. When the message ended, I put my phone down and looked around my apartment. Small, clean, mine. I thought about the courthouse, the ink, the one-way ticket. My exit hadn't been dramatic. It had been perfectly timed. Evan called again in early afternoon my time, which meant it was morning back home. That was how I could tell he'd been sitting on something. He didn't wait until after work, didn't wait until the day cooled off. Got a minute? He asked. I'm walking to lunch, I said. Go. His voice had that tired edge, the one you get from watching stupidity rerun itself. They're filing. Who's they? I asked even though I knew. Lauren, he said. She filed for divorce. Weeks after the wedding. And she's trying for annulment for fraud. I stopped at a crosswalk and watched a scooter slip past. A tourist couple argued softly over a map. My life remained normal, which made his news sound even more ridiculous. She married him, I said. Then immediately hired a lawyer. Pretty much, Evan replied. She's saying she was deceived. That Derek lied about everything. And Derek? I asked. Evan made a sound like swallowing something sour. Derek's fighting it. Hard. And man, you're gonna love this. He's pushing for spousal support. I let out a short breath. Not laughter. Just disbelief. From her. Yep, Evan said. He's playing an injured husband. Like he's the one who got duped. I started walking again. Barcelona sidewalks were crowded, but the movement helped. I didn't want to be standing still while old lives tried to reach across an ocean. Evan continued. And it gets better. Lauren's attorney is trying to paint a picture of her state of mind before the wedding. Like she was vulnerable. Like she was escaping a bad marriage. I heard the angle immediately. Make me the villain. Make Derek the rescuer. Then when Derek flips, she becomes the victim of both men. Tragic, misunderstood, worthy of mercy. Evan lowered his voice. Your name came up. My jaw tightened. How? Derek's side is trying to claim she had trauma from you, Evan said, careful with the words like they were explosive. They're suggesting she rushed into marriage because she was unstable after the divorce. And Lauren's side is not shutting it down because it helps her fraud argument. I stopped again, this time by a storefront window, my reflection looking back like a stranger who'd learned how to hold still. So I'm a prop, I said. Yeah, Evan admitted. Sorry. I stared at my own face. Older than last year, calmer than last year. What do they want from me? Evan hesitated. It's not a subpoena yet, but Lauren's lawyer is asking around, seeing if you'll provide a statement. Derek's lawyer is talking like you're unstable, like you were controlling, like I'm the reason she made bad decisions. I finished. Exactly, Evan said. And I know you don't want to be involved. I get it. But I also don't want Derek rewriting your life on paper. That was the part that mattered. Not Lauren. Not Derek. Not their circus. The record. I'd worked too hard to get clean for some guy like Derek to smear me a strategy. Tell me what's needed, I said. Evan sounded relieved. A factual statement. Dates. Basic stuff. That you didn't threaten her, didn't stalk her, didn't whatever. Just clean facts. I can do that, I said. But listen to me. Yeah. This isn't me helping Lauren, I said. This is me protecting the truth. Derek doesn't get to use my past to buy leverage in his present. I know, Evan said quickly. I know. That evening I sat at my desk with my laptop and wrote a statement like a man writing an incident report. Direct, unemotional, dated. Marriage timeline. Separation date. Legal proceedings. No accusations. No name-calling. No opinion. Just the truth. I sent it to Evan to pass along through the proper channels. Then closed my laptop like I was shutting a door. Across the ocean, two people who'd built their happiness on betrayal were now tearing each other apart with paperwork. They were doing it in courtrooms, through lawyers, through legal language designed to turn human lives into arguments. And for a moment I felt that old pull, the part of me that used to want to watch the fallout, to see the consequences land. Then I remembered my apartment, my job, my routines, The way my phone stayed quiet when I told it to. So I stepped in once, cleanly, and stepped back out. Because facts are weapons when con artists are writing the story. And I wasn't going to let my name be another tool in Derek Hale's hands. By the time it finished, I didn't even know the exact day it happened. That's how far I'd gotten. Evan texted me a short update. Annulment went through. Derek got nothing. No paragraph. No celebration emojis. Just a clean ending to a mess that never deserved this much ink. I read it once and set the phone down. Outside, Barcelona was doing what it always did, moving forward without asking permission. I'd met Sofia Reyes in the most unromantic way possible. Language routine. Same small cafe. Same weekday schedule. Me stumbling through Spanish like I was dragging a crate upstairs. She overheard me ordering the wrong thing for the third time and corrected me with a half smile that didn't pity me. Close, she said. But no. I laughed once because it was fair. Teach me, then. That's how it started. Not fireworks. Not some cinematic rescue. Just two adults sharing a table and turning mistakes into progress. She worked in design, kept her life organized, and didn't fish for drama. When she asked questions, they were real. When she listened, she didn't angle it into gossip. She didn't treat me like a damaged project. With Sophia, my life stayed steady. We walked markets on Saturdays, cooked simple dinners. I talked about travel like it was normal to plan a future instead of surviving a past. She didn't pry for details about Lauren, and I didn't volunteer them. I'd already learned that repeating poison doesn't drain it. It spreads it. Then Lauren tried one last time. A message came through from a new number, the kind of move that tells you someone's been blocked and still believes they're entitled to access. Lauren, I heard it's officially over. I'm sorry. I wish we could talk just to have closure. I don't want to end our story like this. I stared at it for a few seconds and felt something I didn't expect. Not anger. Not satisfaction. Just a mild exhaustion. Like someone knocking on a door to a house you sold months ago. Closure, she said. That word gets used like it's a gift. Like the person who did damage can offer a final conversation and it erases the bills. I didn't owe her a conversation. I didn't owe her comfort. I didn't owe her forgiveness packaged in polite sentences. I deleted the message. Then I blocked the number. No reply. No lecture. No, I hope you find peace. Nothing that would keep a thread alive. I sat there for a moment, phone in my hand, and realized something simple. The most powerful move isn't revenge. It's refusing to keep playing. That weekend, Sophia and I booked a trip forward, short, practical, something to look at on the calendar that had nothing to do with court dates or hometown gossip. I closed my laptop, grabbed my jacket, and stepped out into the city like it belonged to me. Because it did. Lauren and Derek would always have their own consequences, their own noise, their own need for witnesses. My life didn't. My win was quiet, and it was real.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.